As you can kind of see right now, I'm trying to use the kneadable eraser to carefully kind of blur and kind of lighten and soften the apparent texture of the creature, in part to get the colors to be more distinct within its outline, and also because, well, I think it might also fit with the idea of this being kind of a partial sea creature, that it might have something like soft skin. Let's see, and while I'm also thinking on the idea of what exactly this creature was entirely about, in the course of when I had been sketching it, I had the benefit of using colors. I mean, I'm obviously going black and white here because I'm trying to just use the chalk and the background of the black to convey the creature. But when I was trying to make it, I was using mixes of red and blue. And I kind of enjoyed having those two colors next to each other, and in the course of doing that, the creature ended up, it was something which had a red that was a very important part of its color, as you might imagine. And so another thing that kind of entered into one of my thoughts about trying to build the mythos to it was, this idea of calling it, a creature of the red tide or something like that, because I'm still not very good on the science of some of these things, but the idea being that tied into the idea of this tide was red tide. It came from the idea of how there are the red algae blooms, which sometimes occur in the water and can make it turn red. And I think I read that sometimes they're not harmful, but I've also read of lots of cases where this red algae would be very poisonous and could be a threat to people who are swimming. And besides the coincidence that came just from trying to experiment with the color red, that also seemed like an interesting idea to me that could seem to be tied to these aquatic people, was this idea of you might have this creature that could have some dangerous properties that was linked to this idea of this dangerous occurrence that would happen every once in a while. It actually gave me it had me stop for a moment, and it's something that I've still been trying to consider for a long while, which is whether or not to have the rays itself be kind of a red or maybe even a brown color. The idea being that I originally had envisioned them being kind of a blue skin sort of color, because it's blue and water, and I as a general rule find blue to be a rather pretty color. But I figured that the red might have a sort of a connection, the idea that they might feel a connection to the sort of spirit which has links to these forces of nature. And I also considered, besides the idea of that, and there's the idea of the brown, the idea being that the brown was that the brown had this idea of camouflage, that this species might have arisen from or were created with the benefit of this idea that because of their brown coloration they would have the ability to kind of try to hide and blend into stuff like kelp. and possibly on parts of land the brown coloration could maybe help with some areas of vegetation. So let's see. I'm still trying to think of how well I'm doing the coloration on this, because I'm kind of enjoying having it be a bit more darker where it kind of has an underbelly, while this sort of this more armored looking section on top has kind of taken on a lighter hue, which is kind of the opposite of what I was kind of thinking, but I'm kind of liking how it looks. And it kind of matches with the idea that you have this this moon in the corner that can function as a light source. The idea being that this this armored section, which I ended up making pointing towards the moon, is getting lit up. And while one might figure, why not just do what you had originally intended? Well, this could be something that could be fun to experiment with, and you could kind of think of it in terms of how there might be a mythology where one could say the idea is that the creature's colored this way because of in some story it glistens this certain way because that's how it faces the moon, and it's just that important that it always looks that way. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit darker. There's still going to be a little bit of chalk in there. But I don't mind that, because it helps to, I think it kind of helps give it a little bit more sense of something being there. It's not just the thing against the background. It's not just the chalk against the background. We have a little bit more texture and color. Well, not so much color, but it isn't just black and white. There can be gradations. There can be areas where it's slightly more than just a black background. And so, kind of getting to an end here, but I think I could still try to do a little bit more here. I might try to use the kneadable eraser again to let the moon be here more. While still rubbing it. And so we'll kind of have this creature let's see, well, I might try to put in a little bit more chalk more forcefully. I don't want to have it just be plain chalk there, because I feel like the texture of just the plain drawn chalk doesn't really do well for the moon, I think. I mean, if you're someone who would think to try something like this, you might disagree, but I like having some smoothness. Oh dear, the lights turned out. Oh, my battery's getting low. I did end up going a little bit longer than I thought I would. I thought I would manage to do this in 15 minutes, but obviously not, since I had to cut it off a little bit sooner in the last video. In terms of what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try to spend the remaining minutes trying to wrap this up to the best of my abilities. I think I have the creature done sufficiently well. I might do little bits of detail here and there, but I figure I've done it pretty decently for what I'm wanting for now, for just doing a quick little drawing. So I'm basically going to spend the next little while trying to wrap it up. Maybe as you can kind of see here, adding a little bit of emphasis to some lines. I think that's good enough for now. Let's see. Oh, maybe add a bit of detail into the feet. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. It's probably not one of the best things I've ever made, but I had some fun managing to put this together, and I don't know if anyone is following along with this for any particular reason, or if anyone feels inspired by it, but it's... I hope someone out there got something from this. Got our Spirit of the Tides. Thank you very much for watching.